I want to welcome you to another episode of the Advisory Board podcast, where we bring on experts in the franchising space to teach you how to do things that you might not know how to do real well. So today I've got Julien Paul with me. He's the Chief Revenue Officer over at Social Made Simple. These guys are experts in social media engagement, lead generation. What we're going to talk about today, though, is, and the reason why I've got Julien here is we're going to talk about how do you use social media effectively to generate leads. There are a lot of misconceptions in that space. So, Julien, they've been working in franchising for about 5 years. They know the space forward and backward, and also the social platforms and the best way to leverage them to generate qualified leads. So, Julien, why don't I pitch it to you? Tell us a little bit more about you. Tell us a little bit about Social Made Simple, so people know why the heck they should be listening to you today. And then let's jump right in.
Sure. I appreciate it, Dave. So my name is Julien Paul. I'm the Chief Revenue Officer over at Social Made Simple. Been with the company for about 7 years at this point. Social Made Simple, like Dave highlighted, we are a franchise social marketing agency. So really what we do is we try to work with franchises, and more specifically the franchisees, to build out hyper-local social media strategies that are really effective at not only representing your brand and your location correctly on social media, but at the end of the day, our goal is to generate you more business. So we work with you to create these campaigns that are going to generate those new customers for you and build that brand awareness and that visibility on social media. That's a little bit about us. Excited to obviously be here.
Yeah, well, thanks for being here, Julien, and for lending your expertise. I appreciate it. So let's talk about the fun stuff first. There are a bunch of misconceptions about social. I'll start with myself, because up until 3 years ago, I used to tell people Facebook marketing is stupid. Like, why would you waste any money on that? I was a little ignorant, to be honest. It's funny, actually, it's laughable now, because some of my clients, that's where they get the majority of their leads that they generate revenue from. In the home service space, it's huge. But even in things like Frandev or higher level services, it's a pretty powerful platform. So let's let you riff about that for a second, Julien. What are some of the key misconceptions that you see today in the franchising community about using social as a means to generate qualified leads?
Yeah, it's a great question. It's funny. I think that although you referenced that you had that perspective 3 years ago, I think a lot of people, especially in the franchise space, still don't believe that social media is an effective way to generate new customers, especially Facebook, Instagram. You hear about those two networks in the news all the time, and they think it's going downhill. They think that it's not worth spending money or putting your attention on social. And we feel very differently. When we started back in 2009, we were really a content-based company where we focused on creating organic content that went out to social channels, and it was getting in front of a ton of people. The algorithms were working and you were getting visibility. Social over time, and especially Meta, has really shifted, and it's become a pay-to-play platform. So I would say, the two most common misconceptions that I see, especially when I'm talking to franchisees, is one, they think social is not important. They maybe post content out to social from time to time, once a week, once a month, and they don't see any results from it. And that, after not seeing anything come from that one post, they just give up on it and don't think that it's going to add any value to their business. The other mistake, and I hate hearing this, and we talk to Facebook all the time, and they tell us this is a huge error that people make. They'll put a post out, someone will post to their Facebook business page, and they'll put $100 behind that post, and they'll boost it, and they'll expect that that's going to drive a ton of engagement. It's going to drive a ton of new customers, but they don't target at all. They don't know how to get in front of the right people in the right areas that are actually interested in the content that they're putting out there. So at the end of the day, they're almost throwing that money away. And when they don't see the results there, again, they don't think that it's effective. So those two things, it's a waste of time. It's a waste of money. And we're here to hopefully step in and help guide them on that strategy.
Yeah, well, you brought up something really important. So when someone helped peel back the layers for me, and my perspective completely changed, and it's even changed more in the last I'd say 3 months as I've dug deeper into it. There's a lot of sophistication behind the monetization of the marketing in Facebook, but more sophistication than you find pretty much anywhere else. Like, the ability to target's a little bit uncanny. The lookalike audience builder and the AI is incredible if you leverage it. It's kind of like interest rates. Like, you want those things working for you, not against you. The AI algorithms in Facebook, you want them working for you, not against you. When you get in the platform, they're designed to keep you stuck on the platform. So they put display ads and content and reminders to keep you sucked in. But those same tools you can leverage to get in front of your customers, your ideal customers. So tell us a little bit about targeting and how can you truly build effective targeting, and then how can you leverage that in a campaign to generate good leads?
Yeah, it's scary. It's scary how much Facebook and Instagram and just the internet overall knows about you, but especially those social media platforms. They know the types of things that you're looking for, that you're thinking about purchasing. That's why many people will go on Facebook and they were just talking about something to their friend, or they had just searched it on Google. They go on Facebook and that thing is being advertised right in front of them. That's because they know that much about you, and the person that's setting up those targeting parameters know what they're doing on social media. So the first thing is, obviously you want to make sure that you're spending your money to get in front of the right people in the right area. So when we work with a client, we try to hone in on what cities are you targeting, what towns, or is there a certain radius around a particular pin? Are there certain zip codes or postal codes that you want to focus on, so that we're only advertising to people in those specific areas? But then you can get far more granular than that. You can dive into, again, their interests, the types of things that these individuals look up on Google or on social media, so that every time they are going on social, they're now seeing your ad. And then we like to mix in, lookalike campaigns. So if you give us a customer list, we're able to figure out, how do we get in front of people that Facebook or Instagram identify looks like that type of customer, has the same purchasing actions on social media? How do we get in front of that type of customer? And then lastly, retargeting. We want to make sure that we're getting in front of people that are visiting your website and didn't purchase anything from you. Let's get in front of them every time they are on Instagram, so that maybe it sparks a thought that, oh shoot, I should have finished this purchase, and they go and they convert from social. So there are a bunch of things that you can do. You really want to hone in again on that audience and make sure that you're getting an effective message, great imagery in front of them that are causing them to take a particular action.
Yeah, this is fantastic. You just dumped a lot of really good knowledge. So I want to go back and revisit a couple of these things and make sure it really sticks.
Sure.
I've got a fun question for you in a minute for a buddy of mine, Bryce, that I was chatting with yesterday about a campaign he was trying to run. So I want to talk about lookalike audiences for a minute, because this is really how you can harness the power of the AI that's inside of the platform today. At least it's one of the best ways, in my opinion, at least what I've been told by other folks that are experts in the space. But a lookalike audience, can you explain what that is? Because I think for you and I, like, we get it, but most people listening are going to say, well, what does that mean? How do I create a lookalike audience? Can you explain in more detail how to build one and what that actually powers on the back end of the AI that will help them with targeting?
Yeah, and to be honest, I mean, we create, I would say, the vast majority of our campaigns using a lookalike audience, and we don't totally get it. Basically, we're taking these customer lists, we're uploading them into Facebook, and then Facebook, they have a ton of information about everybody that they're able to match to that customer list you provided us with. So Facebook's algorithm, their AI, like you were already speaking about, generates all of this different data, and then they look at all of the people in your area, again, that look exactly like this type of person, that have similar interests, or that have similar decisions. They're more likely to click over to a website, or they're more likely to fill out a lead form. And then when we're creating the audience, we're telling Facebook or we're telling Instagram, these are the people that we want to reach, not this exact audience, but all of the people that you've identified that look just like that audience. I wish I knew exactly what data points Facebook and Instagram are pulling from. I don't have that exact information, but that's part of their secret sauce over there, and it does tend to work for our clients.
Yeah, well, and I don't know all the details either, but looking into it, there's a matching sequence, right? So they'll say, you uploaded 1,000 contacts. Oh, and by the way, what's the ideal size for a lookalike audience? Because you're taking your customer list, you're uploading it into Facebook, and don't worry, they're not selling that data. They're just using that data to find those profiles of those people, and then to say, okay, now I've got a list of people that have already purchased from you. Those are ideal clients. And under each one of those people are 5,000 data points. And so they're taking those people, breaking them down and saying, well, these data points tend to align here. So I'm going to find people that are an 85% match to that type of a persona in their location, their interests, their their socioeconomic information, by the way, which they have, and all sorts of other details. And so then they can say, okay, now here's a list of 1,000 other people that are just like these 500 you just uploaded. Now I'm going to display your ads to just them.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And we can upload for lookalike audiences, we can upload almost any size list, but we always recommend the bigger the better. So if you're over 1,000 customers that we are putting into that Facebook algorithm to generate that lookalike audience, that's really the ideal number. But if you, as you mentioned, if you have 500 names, if you have 100 names, we still want to try to create a lookalike audience out of that.
Yeah, anything is better than nothing. But
Yeah.
the more you've got to train the engine, the more accurate it can be in pinpointing who they want to put your ad in front of. This is when we talked about before about creating a qualified leads. I do hear some people complain and say, "Yeah, I just get a bunch of garbage leads out of Facebook." Well, my follow-up question is almost always, what is your lookalike audience? Did you even bother doing that? Because if not, Facebook, if they don't have that data, what they'll do is they'll broadcast it into a geography, and you'll help them with manually setting, like, I always want it to go to people between the ages of 35 and 50, but this guy's in prison on Facebook, and that guy is he's a college professor, but what you're really looking for are people that actually have certain socioeconomic characteristics that live in certain neighborhoods. And if you're not feeding that information to the system can't help you target. So your ads are being put in front of everybody. And oops, you forgot to select the gender. Well, guess what? Now, like, ladies are all seeing this ad about men's boots. Like, oops, now you're wasting your ad campaign money.
Exactly. Yeah. And in terms of lookalike audiences, we also see that it really does lower in terms of, or in addition to the quality of the lead, it also helps with just the quantity of leads. The cost per lead tends to drop as well whenever we add in lookalike audiences for our clients. For quality, I might be jumping ahead here, but it does help there. What we also try to do with our clients is we try to figure out how high do you want the quality to be? Are you only looking for, let me get as many leads as I possibly can, I'm going to contact them all, I'm going to put them all on email campaigns? Or do you only want the most qualified lead that you possibly can get? And when that's the case, what we're doing is we're changing the lead forms that we're creating. We're adding in more questions. We're making sure that all of those questions are manually answered. People are actually typing in their responses so that when we generate a lead for you and we drive it over there, that has a good chance of becoming a customer, and you're not wasting your time reaching out.
Yeah, well, I want to revisit what you just said for a minute and maybe reframe it, because a lot of people, there's this thought in marketing of, well, you got to reduce all friction in the process or else you'll reduce your lead flow. You're darn right, you sure will. But there's a certain phase where you need to balance quality versus quantity. And let's talk about that for a minute, Julien. Like, you just mentioned it, but what are some of the tools you use with your clients that are maybe getting a lot of leads, but they're not as qualified? How do you create some positive friction in that qualification process that's automated through forms, whatever, so that they're not just having to spend human capital siphoning through tons of leads?
Yeah, it's a great question. And again, we have customers that say to us, especially in the fitness space, we just want as many leads as you can possibly drive us. We have a huge sales team. We're just on the phones all day. So in those cases, we're just collecting name, phone number, maybe email address. And then we'll have other franchisees that will come to us and say, listen, I'm the only salesperson. I'm the only person that's there reaching out to these leads. I can't be on the phones all day. I need to make sure these leads are qualified. And that's when we're adding in some different parameters. We're adding additional questions. So we're collecting, their name, their email, their phone number, what their address is or where they're located, what type of product or service they're looking for specifically. We're also taking away Facebook's automatic capability of just pressing a button and having all of the information auto-populate. We then want to have that person actually have to enter in their name, enter in their address, because if they're taking the time to do that, they're probably pretty serious about your service or your product that you're offering. And then lastly, just adding more context to the messaging or the captions that are with our advertising campaigns that we're creating. For instance, we do, a lot of recruiting campaigns for our clients, whether it be staffing franchises or other franchises that just need to hire more job candidates. Sometimes we'll need to put in all of those job qualifications, all of those things that you need before applying to the actual text, so that someone has to read through that before going ahead and putting in all of their information and turning into a lead or a candidate. So there's a bunch of stuff that you can do, but I would say that adding more questions to the form, that's usually the most effective one that we see on our end.
Yeah, that's great. And it's funny because it seems counterintuitive, like, well, why would I want to do that? But if you are seeing high volumes of leads and you're light on staff, and guys, most people are, like, in this industry, your headquarters staff, if you're doing Fran Dev this way, you don't have tons of people that are available to answer the calls and follow up on the leads. But if you have a good infrastructure and you want just higher volumes, you can get a lot of good leads out of it. It just takes a little bit more sifting. So you kind of need to feather the clutch, I'd guess, a little bit and figure out, when you're working with someone like Julien, who's an expert in this, what's our real goal? Is our goal just leads, or is it truly qualified leads? And then find the balance point in between. If you find your lead volume is not as high, maybe remove a little bit of that friction from the lead capture process, and then you should see the volume go up.
Exactly.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, this is really helpful stuff. So I wanted to go back. So I've got a friend, Bryce. I was talking to him about geofencing and targeting. And so he told me, he's like, hey, on the weekend, I made this thing. There's a conference in Atlanta that I wanted to, it's a retail conference I wanted to target. And I set it all up and I didn't get a single lead. So sometimes people, first, let's talk about geo-targeting and geofencing. A lot of people don't have any idea what that means. They think it's something where you bury that wire in your yard so your dog can't leave with a shock collar. But let's talk about what geofencing really means inside of the context of social and other digital marketing and lead gen.
Yeah, again, it's just making sure that when you're creating campaigns, you are basically putting a border around exactly where you want to target, where you want people to see the ad campaigns that you're creating. If I'm over in Boston and I'm trying to reach people that are within 15 miles of my particular location, I need to make sure that those are the people that are seeing my ads. And it's not good. These ads aren't showing up in New York. They're not showing up in Utah. They're not showing up in Los Angeles. They're only showing up in our area. Otherwise, you're just spending money and you're wasting your money on these social platforms. So that's the most important thing, I think, when diving into these campaigns and creating these campaigns.
Yeah, and a franchise, unit level operation, obviously you've got pretty well defined territories and geographies. So you want to be careful where you're spending your ad money. But what are some other contexts people might want to use? Let's say I'm doing franchise development. So I'm trying to get franchise leads or franchise candidate leads in. How can somebody intelligently use geo-targeting or geofencing to narrow in around a certain, let's say, marketplace?
Yeah, I mean, there are obviously a lot of different factors that go into that, like what territories is that particular franchise looking to expand into? Are they allowed to expand into that particular area? But we run FranDev campaigns for a bunch of the different franchises that we work with. And again, it's getting specific there and really honing in on those particular areas. And then we also are talking to them. It depends on how well they know those areas inside and out, what neighborhoods they potentially want to focus on, where do they think there is an audience that will be more likely to be interested in this franchise opportunity. And then we also build in all of these other things that we talked about, like lookalike audiences, interest targeting, etc. But at the end of the day, again, that's the most important thing, knowing where your audience is, having us set it up so that those neighborhoods, those radiuses, those towns, they're the ones receiving the ads and nobody else.
Awesome. And now for my friend Bryce, who set this up on his own and thought it was going to work this weekend, what are some things you can do that might cause it to restrict the audience size so much that you're not going to get any leads? What are some common mistakes you see there?
Yeah, so I mean, to be honest, Dave, I'd have to look at his campaign because there may be some other issues going on outside of just the geo-targeting. But yeah, it depends. I mean, for him specifically, it is trying to know best where is that audience and what are they going to respond to. He has this particular thing he's trying to promote. You don't want to just blast it out to every single zip code or every single neighborhood, you may want to hone in even further. So we'd need to talk to him about what exactly it is he's promoting, what the issue was potentially with the imagery, the creative, etc. But then the geofencing, it doesn't really sound like a geofencing issue to me. So we'd have to look into it a little bit more.
Yeah, and you can't get to the point where you're trying to manually set these things up without a lookalike audience, where you can put too many parameters in, and then it just keeps shrinking and shrinking and shrinking the audience size. So eventually, Facebook's now targeting 17 people rather than.
That's the other thing. You need to make sure that you have a healthy audience size. You need to make sure you're not getting too specific. But again, if you do have a very specific type of audience you're trying to go after, it can be smaller. It can be less than the 50,000 people we'd be trying to reach with a normal campaign. So yeah, there are a lot of different things you can obviously do there.
Cool. Well, that's helpful. Well, let's shift gears a little bit and let's talk about we talked a little bit about some of the aspects in building an effective campaign, but let's come back to that broader topic. What else? So we talked about building lookalike audiences, truly understanding your audience. What are some other key components to a successful social media campaign?
Yeah, we obviously the knowing your audience, where they're at, and then it's also testing the imagery and the text that is going out with your different advertising campaigns. What we like to do for our customers, we do a lot of A/B testing. So we're mixing different images with different text. We're trying different types of graphics, different CTAs, different call to actions. And then we look back at that campaign and we try to hone in on what was successful, what ad performed the best, and then how can we improve on that ad. That ad is the one that's obviously speaking to this audience most. What else can we do to improve on that and have it speak to that audience even better? Another thing that we do, because a lot of our advertising is very heavy on Facebook and Instagram, we also try to take a look at what network is your audience responding to best? Where are you generating? We always advertise on both. Well, where are you generating the most leads, or where are you getting the most website clicks from? And then once we analyze that data and we say, hey, even though we thought Facebook was going to be more successful, Instagram is actually the one that's blowing it out of the water. Let's put more of that budget for this particular franchisee or this particular client on Instagram. And then let's figure out what ads on Instagram are working best. Are they newsfeed ads? Are they story ads? What is that particular audience reacting to? So I think the imagery, the creative, and then figuring out where your audience is and meeting them where they're at, that's what's really important when you're creating these campaigns.
Yeah, no, I hear you. The testing is so important. I'm curious a little bit about, I'm one of those guys that, to be honest, like I got Instagram because my cousin was traveling around the world and that was the only platform he was going to use to chronologue it. But my son's a little bit on there now, my 18-year-old. I don't really use it much, but tell me what types of brands or what types of campaigns tend to work well on Instagram that maybe don't work as well on Facebook? What are you guys seeing?
I wish I could give you a good answer for that question. It's so across the board. Every time that we think an ad campaign is not going, or a particular type of business is not going to work well on Instagram, it always does, and vice versa for Facebook. You think of Instagram as the platform that typically has a younger audience, but we'll go on there. We work with a good amount of in-home care, senior in-home care franchises. We'll advertise on Instagram and Facebook. You would think that Facebook would be the place where that would be really successful, but no, it's Instagram. So, and we see the opposite on Facebook. Whether it be a younger fitness brand, Facebook, I would say for us, what we've been able to look at with the data, that performs far better on Facebook. So it's very difficult to predict. It just depends on the audience. And that's why it's so important to not only know your audience outside of social media, but then to also do the analysis of your audience and their purchasing decisions and where they're at on social media, because it may actually surprise you.
Yeah, I think a lot of the stats that we use are 3 to 5 years old now about like who's on which platform.
Yep.
It's becoming a little more ubiquitous. I mean, I'm on them, but don't advertise to me on Instagram because I'm on there for like 30 seconds every week or something to see if my son posted anything. But but I'm not normal, I think, when it comes to social media use, to be frank. So I'm
You
not your
never
type.
know. There might be something that catches your eye in that 30 seconds, Dave, and then you end up purchasing it. Who knows?
It's true. I have purchased stuff more off of Facebook, but yeah, it's true. It's true. Let's talk. Let's shift gears and talk about TikTok for a minute, just because I recently had my opinion shifted a little bit on this one. I was a bit of a skeptic, but what are you seeing that what's trending on TikTok now as far as monetizing and generating leads? And then let's share a little bit about what can somebody do. When do you know if you are ready to use it, and when do you know if you're not? Those are the key things I think we should talk about.
Sure. Yeah. TikTok is something that our company doesn't do much with at the moment. However, it can be extremely effective. TikTok is a platform that takes up a lot of your time, and people used to think about it as a platform that teenagers were mainly on, but it's completely expanded outside of just that typical age range. So you have all different types of people on TikTok. What's difficult with TikTok is you can create an organic video that goes viral and can be extremely effective for your business, promoting your business, getting in front of the right types of people. Right now in the advertising space, it's extremely expensive. So if you have a video that you want to boost out in front of your audience, you're paying far more on TikTok to get that in front of a large number of people in that audience compared to a platform like Facebook or Instagram. My recommendation for TikTok would be, if you have a lot of time to create content, if you have a good amount of time to go to your location to shoot different videos, to cut that content up, if you are social media savvy, you should be leveraging TikTok and you should be posting organically on TikTok. Also, if you're one thing that's been trending and extremely successful is influencers on TikTok. So there are different micro influencers or macro influencers who you can pay or you can send things to promote your brand, and then they may go on their own channels and talk about what you sent them or talk about your particular brand. That's always an option as well. But for the typical franchisee that's trying to get the most bang for their buck, if you do not take a lot of videos of your particular service, your location, TikTok's probably not the place for you. I would recommend going to some of those other networks.
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting because I need to be shown how to do it, but as a technology company, I mean, we're not like hyper visual. I can show automated things happening, but like it's not really visual. And
Exactly.
so I think that's also, if you're not a real visual brand, I mean, a lot of the home service guys, very cool before and after, like time lapse videos are freaking popular on TikTok. People will sit there and watch a time lapse of a house being painted, and they're just mesmerized by that kind of stuff. This conference I was just at was a roofing conference, but the guy that was there, he was posting like some videos of like people cutting vinyl siding or something like that. And the guys I was with, they said, Dave, like no joke, he's got like, I can't remember, like maybe 600,000 followers or a million followers on TikTok. So pretty influential that way. They said while we're eating dinner, he kept getting notices that we had 15,000 people that had viewed it, then 25,000, then 50,000, and he generated leads from it because people would inquire about whatever tool or service he was highlighting. Then he would give the leads to the partner that could service those leads. So
that's a perfect example. And you never know what's going to go viral on TikTok. You can create a video, think that it's not going to do anything, and then it ends up going viral. You can create a video that you think is the best video in the world. It's absolutely going viral, and it can get 3 views. It really depends on their algorithm, how people respond. We work with a company called Men in Kilts, which is an exterior cleaning company. These guys wear kilts when they go out and work on a daily basis, and they do great on TikTok when they post videos. So it does work. It's just you need to have the ability to create, to post those types of videos, and you need to have something to offer on a very regular basis. Posting just one video and not returning to it in 3, 4, 5 months, that's not what we'd recommend. If you are going to really focus on TikTok, make sure you're posting every week, even every day if you have the ability to do so.
Yikes. Yeah. So do you have time, money, and video content, visual brands? I mean, you might not think it, but nail brands, dog brands, like whatever, elderly care, obviously be a little careful with, with privacy, but there are some opportunities for visualizing the brand, I think there, even in those concepts.
Yeah. If you have the tools and you have the resources, I say go for it.
Yeah. And you might not think of, but like franchise sales, let's say you're a bakery concept, you're a quick serve restaurant concept. Putting a lot of people love watching like the videos of food being prepared or food baking or food cooking or final delivery of food. Like just realize that some of the people, if you want to reach people that are interested in food and that's somebody who's passionate about food and that's your avatar, then maybe it's a good platform for you.
Those are some of the successful videos on TikTok, food related videos. So you're completely right. That's the way to go.
Yeah, but like I said, I'm a reformed TikTok hater when it came to lead gen. Like I've actually seen the light a little bit now. Not that I think we'll be able to leverage that, but I think there's room for it, and people should kind of shed that concept of it's a waste of time. It's just expensive, like, as you said.
Yeah, and it's something we're always evaluating. We try to meet with their team once a month and get an understanding of what's coming next, best way to help franchises on TikTok. So, yeah, it's a platform that for the time being, we'll see what happens, but for the time being, it's the place to be.
Yeah, for sure. Well, let's talk. So let's say I'm an emerging franchise brand, or I'm an established franchise brand, and I just need to get started with social. We haven't implemented it very well yet. Where should I start? Like, how do I make a conservative effort that's also going to start to yield some outcomes that will validate the expense, so I can increase my budget there?
Yeah, my recommendation would be create a Facebook page, create an Instagram account, start posting, 2 to 3 times a week. But before you even do that, invite your network. Try to get people over to your page. Try to get your friends to like your page, to follow your page. They're the ones that are going to start off by engaging with your content. And hopefully it has a snowball effect. The more that you're posting content out there, if you're let's say you're a brick and mortar business, when people come in, encourage them to go like your page or to follow you on Instagram. And then you want to make sure that you're posting content that encourages engagement. Ask questions, ask people for their feedback on your products or services. But if you really just are starting out, you're at square one, you need to create those accounts, and I would say share it with your friends.
Cool. And then once I've gotten past phase one, right, establish a base and a little bit of a social connection, because you can start marketing and you can try to boost ads, but if you're spending money to boost your posts, but you don't have any connections, nobody's liked your Facebook page, that's just burnt money.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you do want to have a decent following, and then we talked about it, I believe, at the beginning of the conversation. When you are boosting, when you are trying to get this content in front of more people, you need to know what you're doing. If you have a good understanding of Facebook advertising or of Instagram advertising, it's absolutely worth it. You can definitely get a return on your investment. But I'm begging everyone listening to this, do not spend money just to put a post in front of more people. And at the end of the day, that's not going to bring you anything back. And you're going to walk away from it thinking social media doesn't work. And that really isn't the case.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. Let's wrap with some other advice in that regard, Julien. So advice number one, things not to do, right? So don't start paying to boost ads when you haven't already invested in creating a base of engagement with your people. What else? What would you say are maybe 2 or 3 other pieces of advice that people shouldn't do? And then we'll maybe wrap up with two things that people should be definitely doing right now.
Sure. Obviously, do not, I would say, do not boost or do not spend on ad campaigns if you don't know what you're doing there. I would also say, make sure that and this is kind of goes into what you should be doing as well, but don't post content that you don't think your audience would be interested in. We find all the time that someone creates a Facebook page and then rather than promoting their business, they're just posting a picture of their house or of their dog or of their children. And it has absolutely nothing to do with their business. It's just about them personally. In some business models, that makes sense depending on the type of franchise or the type of business you are, but your audience probably isn't visiting your page or liking your page for that type of content. So make sure that it's content that you think they're going to be interested in, and again, encouraging engagement there is really the way to go.
Yeah. It's interesting because some people think, well, I want to get really personal and kind of expose, like, who are we? And I think there's room for posts like that. But if that's the majority of your posts, are lifestyle pics and posts, and hey, we're on the lake with the dog and the kids, and you're a roofing company, I mean, sometimes the inadvertent message you're sending is, "Hey, we don't work a whole lot around here. We're always playing." I think you got to be careful with some of those things. What are some better examples? So let's say I'm a roofing company, rather than just pictures of my dog and my wife and my truck and whatever. What are some examples of posts that people would probably respond to better?
Yeah, so typically what we really encourage, the number one thing for even though we're responsible for creating content for the franchisees we work with, user generated content performs so much better than the stock images that we're typically getting from the corporate team. So if you are a roofing company and you're out on a job, make sure that you have someone there that is taking photos, or you're taking photos yourself. More often than not, before and after photos are the highest performing photos that we see, especially in the home service space. Just take a couple of photos, take a couple of videos, get those out to your pages. With us, we just encourage our clients to send those over to us. We'll create the graphics, we'll create the posts. But even if you're doing it yourself, that is the type of stuff that your audience is really going to respond to. So yeah, I would say user generated content is the number one thing.
Yeah, I personally, I'll look at the before and after pictures, and I'm not much of a content consumer, but I'm like, oh, that's actually a pretty good project. I've got
Yeah.
one brand that does kitchen sink remodeling. It's pretty cool, actually. When you look at what they do, they do like the apron front. It's they recut the granite, repolish everything in and out in like 3 hours. It's a cool concept, and the impact of the imagery, like you see the old skanky sink, and then you see the new one, you're like, wow, that was a
We
really cool project.
it makes a huge difference. We work with a very large lawn care franchise, and we when we started, we were just using their stock photos, and we started asking like, hey, can you provide us with some before and after photos for the ad campaigns? Drop the CPL a ridiculous amount, a cost per lead a ridiculous amount. So yeah, that depend regardless really of what your business is. If you are in a service space where you are doing that sort of remodeling or restoration, that's going to perform best for you. The other thing that I would say, and this could be in either of the categories, whether it's don't post or don't do this, or you should do this, I would say posting on a regular basis, but not too much. So typically for our customers, we recommend post a few times a week, 3 to 5 times a week, get it out there, make sure your page is active. But we have people that come to us that are posting 8, 10 times a day, and they're wondering why they don't get any social media engagement. It's
Wow.
just way too much.
Yeah, well, we all have the auntie that posts way too much a day because she's bored and she wants attention, and
Right.
we love auntie, but at the same time, like I ignore her feed because I'm like, get out of my face, like that's not what I'm here to see all the time.
You're
So
just going to be muted after a while. They're just either going to unfollow your page or they're going to mute you. So you need to make sure that when you do put a post out there, it is, again, providing that value and it is interesting to the audience. But if you're just posting, I just went on about before and after photos. If you're posting 6 before and after photos a day, people are going to get pretty sick of your before and after photo. It's
yeah,
kind of the media.
yeah, but they think I need to get in front of them. I need to flood the feed. No, 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 no. You want to be, yeah. If it's too much, then you're gonna. I'm gonna mute you. I have things around my feed. I'm like, how the heck did that show up there? Mute, mute, and then I don't have to deal with it anymore. So yeah, that's awesome. Well, Julian, this has been great. Great content. I think this is very actionable. People could take some advice from this and change something they're doing today. And if people want to get in touch with you, how do they find you? If they want to consult with you, get some advice, maybe have you work on some of their campaigns.
Sure. Yeah, a couple of different ways. You can go over to just socialmadesimple.com, try to schedule a call with us. That should go directly over to me. So I would recommend starting there. You can also send me over an email at Julien@socialmadesimple.com. That's JULIEN at socialmadesimple.com. So shoot me over an email, whether you're looking for advice or you need help for your particular location and you're looking to outsource your social media services. We're here to help. So yeah, either of those places are good.
Yeah, fantastic. Well, I appreciate you being on. Thanks for all the great advice. And Bryce, hopefully that was somewhat helpful for you. Got your back, brother. Have a good one, guys. Thanks for tuning in.
Great talking, Dave.